Bill Gates calls for death panels to euthanize citizens not worthy of health care. This is, of course, for those who are familiar with Bill Gates and his depopulation agenda. This is something that he's been talking about for a very long time. I believe that those words themselves came from a 2010 interview. But they're starting to pop up more and more, his push for euthanizing people who are in end-of-life care, palliative care, because that's the next evolution as we start seeing more assisted suicide, more people dying by choice because they are depressed, because they're in pain, because they just don't want to live anymore. Now, I'm not going to weigh in on that debate. I've done it ad nauseum on Twitter, gotten in huge debates about that. But we're talking about the next evolution, what comes next. Because as people, as governments in particular, start seeing the benefits of killing people off, of reducing their burden on the state, burden on the taxpayers, burden on themselves, well, of course, they are going to start looking to people who maybe don't want to die, but because they're going to die anyway pretty soon, we might as well just kill them off now and use that money to buy more whatever. According to the article over at slaynews.com, Frank Bergman over there says, as nations around the world push to introduce and expand liberal euthanasia laws, the plans are sounding eerily similar to the assisted suicide agenda billionaire Bill Gates has been promoting for several years. The Microsoft co-founder argues that it is not cost-effective to provide individuals with long-term health care. Instead, Gates believes his fellow human beings should be euthanized to reduce healthcare costs so that the money that would have been used for treatments can be spent elsewhere. In 2010, Gates weighed up the cost of keeping, quote, terminally ill Americans alive versus paying for teachers' salaries, for example. Always got to throw in the teachers whenever you're trying to make an argument for money. Gates lamented that Americans are unwilling to question if spending money on people in the last 3 months of their lives was cost-effective. He suggested there wasn't a benefit in end-of-life care and a decision should be made to end people's lives instead of providing costly palliative care. He argued that a panel of bureaucrats, of course, should decide whether a person deserves to receive treatment, with those who are not worthy of health care, and that's a quote, being euthanized by the government to save money. Another quote is that he said, that's called the death panel. Yes, this is our favorite depopulationist, globalist, Bill Gates out there saying these crazy things, and he's been saying them for years, and his perspective has not changed one bit. We know this because he said similar things recently. Now he's toned it down. He doesn't call them death panels anymore, but he does refer to end-of-life care. He refers to how money can be spent better. Again, this is the next evolution of, once we normalize assisted suicide, once we normalize the idea that people who are burdening themselves or others or the state, that they shouldn't live, well, that's when we get away from the choice. Those who choose to kill themselves or to die through assisted suicide, that's a debate that we can have, but there should be no debate at all when it comes to killing people who don't want to die, who haven't expressed the desire to die. There are those, of course, do not resuscitate. That's a different scenario because that's preventing death that is impending. In this case, we're talking about terminally ill people on the last leg, the last 3 months or so of their lives. Just pull the plug now, save the cash. I do not support that whatsoever. I think that is hideous. And I have gone through palliative care with a loved one. It's not fun. It is expensive. But by no means do I regret those last 2 or 3 months that I got to spend with them. Let's spread the truth together. You can connect with me on X at JD Rucker, or you could subscribe to my Rumble channel, jdrucker.com/rumble, jdrucker.com/rumble.